All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. We're talking about the Minnesota Vikings in today's video. So 24 hours ago, Minnesota took down my Green Bay Packers 31-29 on the road at Lambeau Field. This is really an unbelievable start to the season. You have now obliterated the New York Giants week 1. You should have obliterated San Francisco, but you still won in week 2. You obliterate Houston in week 3, and you obliterated my Green Bay Packers for the first 30 minutes of football. It really should have been 28-0 heading into halftime, but Jalen Naylor, botched the punt return, and it was 28-7. And so, on Twitter, in my comment section, there's way too much pessimism, and I just think it's a byproduct of social media. The fourth quarter, the Green Bay Packers scored 22 points. Minnesota only scored 3. And it was a 2-point game. And, when you start a game 28-0, you're wanting a blowout. But at the end of the day, you're 4-0. The Minnesota Vikings are 4-0. And I'm going to use actually a beat writer or some type of writer for my Green Bay Packers as a really bad illustration of my issue with the National Football League and, social media with all of that stuff. And we'll, wrap it all together. But let's get into it. All right. Peter Bukowski tweeted this. Like I said, Packers beat writer, Packers writer. 465 yards of offense against the #1 defense by DVOA with a quarterback on one leg. So the way I see it, as a Packers fan, thank God they didn't get blown out, because I was really upset heading into halftime if we didn't get that touchdown. You're 4-0 for the first time since 2016. I'm about to drop a crazy statistic, but before we do, if you guys enjoy this video, hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content. Vikings fans, love and appreciate you guys as always. If we try and get this video to 250 likes, that would mean the world to me. Real quick, once again, I do have a new Vikings only YouTube channel. I will put it in the description. I will pin it in the comment section. Thank you to everybody who has watched it and subscribed to it. Probably repost this video on that account just to try and get some numbers going and get some stuff in motion here. But I've got this stat. All right, the Minnesota Vikings are one of 47 teams since 1989 to start 4-0 with a cumulative point differential of at least 50. All right, nearly 40% of these teams, so 18 out of the 47, reached the Super Bowl, and 8 won it all. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because the Minnesota Vikings entered the preseason with an expected win total of 6.5 per BetGM and pretty much every betting source out there. You started the season, like I said, against San Francisco, Houston, the Green Bay Packers. You got the Jets in London next weekend. You hit your bye a little bit too early, it appears right now, with all this momentum. You've got the Lions, and then you've got the Rams, and I forget the rest of the schedule, but on paper, the Vikings schedule looked almost impossible, right? And that's why you saw this kind of I always thought this floor was going to be a 7-win team just because the schedule is nasty. But the deeper advanced analytics really back up this Vikings team being legit. And I'll even use an example of the Detroit Lions last year, who were really close to making the Super Bowl, and they had much more hype heading into this season than the Minnesota Vikings because obviously the departure of guys like Danielle Hunter and Kirk Cousins, and people were just misinformed with this Vikings team. But the Lions I remember covering the Lions so much at this time last season. There were so many bad wins that this team went through, and if you look at teams like the Chiefs or the San Francisco 49ers or what have you, every team has bad wins. And every team just has bad wins, whether you're a playoff team, whether you're a Super Bowl team, or whether you're, a bottom 5 team in the NFL. Every team has bad wins. And I don't even view this in any way, shape, or form as a bad win because, folks, when you're up 28-0, the game plan changes. You call plays differently on offense. You more so call plays differently on defense. You're not trying to give up, a 72-yard deep shot to Jaden Reed because you want to keep that momentum, right? Just no touchdowns, no big time plays. Let them use up all the time on the clock. We'll give them these dink and dunks. So I just think I know it wasn't a perfect Minnesota Vikings win, but if you're looking for perfect wins, maybe there's a couple. If you're a really good team in the NFL, maybe there's a couple you're going to have every single season. For example, Minnesota last week against Houston, I would view that as an excellent game. So let's get into some stuff on Sam Darnold, because Sam Darnold is putting up an MVP case right now. I don't care. We talked about this in yesterday's video. My Xavier McKinney interception that ended up standing, that was not an interception, but Sam Darnold technically 20 of 28. 275 yards, 3 touchdowns, and interception. I view my Packers defense as really solid. I know we were missing Jair Alexander, but you average just under 10 yards per completion. Sam Darnold has attempted 2 passes this season when trailing. 2 passes this season when trailing. We're a month into the year. That is 1.9% of his 106 attempts on the season. The Chargers' Justin Herbert is the next lowest at 14.3%. Of the other 30 qualifying quarterbacks this season, no one is lower than 27%. Once again, Sam Darnold's at 1.9. All right, so yesterday, first 30 minutes, Sam Darnold, 11 of 15, 136 yards, and 3 touchdowns. We also saw a phenomenal game from Jordan Addison. In his return, he ran for another. The Vikings had 2 amazing interceptions on my man, Mr. Jordan Love. And, Love's making his first start since suffering that knee injury back in week 1 at the end of that Philly game. And they came back in the second half. Jordan Love, 20 of 30 with 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. After halftime, the Packers outscored Minnesota 22-3. Love really struggled in the first half, going 12 of 24 passing for only 118 yards. He did have that 1 touchdown at the end of the half, but it was 2 interceptions. I mean, it was a terrible half of Green Bay Packers offense, and the Minnesota Vikings defense were all over. Whether your name's Shaq Griffin, Grugier Hill, Byron Murphy, Blake Cashman, Cam Bynum. Byron Murphy had the game-sealing fumble. This defense was not perfect on Sunday, especially in the second half, but you forced one of the better quarterbacks, in my opinion, biasly, in Jordan Love to 3 interceptions. And Love's thrown from behind. The yardage is going to be up there. It's going to be a high number when you're down 28-0 through the first 29 minutes of football. So the number one thing that's impressed me the most about this defense, because it's not the most talented defense in the NFL. Danielle Hunter's no longer on this team, so there's no defensive player every single week. I heard a comparison earlier today to Chris Jones. There's no Chris Jones on this Vikings defense. So what you're seeing is, Blake Cashman will have a great game. Cam Bynum will have a great game. Byron Murphy will have a great game. And then the next game, it'll be Van Ginkel. It'll be Ivan Pace when he returns. Grugier, you get the point here. So they do turn the ball, or they force turnovers at a rate we're just not seeing in the NFL right now. Nobody really anticipated this coming from Minnesota, not necessarily because Brian Flores is a bad defensive coach, because no one's ever thought that, but it was more so, oh, well, you know what? They got rid of Danielle Hunter. They lost all these pieces. It's a weaker defensive back room. The unification of this team, to me, it's just, there's no better way this team could have started. And if you want to nitpick yesterday's, 28-0 lead, if this was in the month of January and the NFC North Division is on the line, or if this is the wild card game of the playoffs, you're not nitpicking a game like this, so why would you nitpick it in week 4? All right, kind of a weird rant ramble video. Sorry, I had really bad Wi-Fi issues on this. Hopefully it was all right. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content. As always, check out that Vikings channel. I'll pin it down below, but give me your player of the game from yesterday against the Green Bay Packers. We'll probably see in a couple of days from now. So have a great beginning of your week. We'll see you soon. Peace.